We do the Sam Dickinson deep dive where he looked at the tape and tried to figure out what he needs to work on, where he's best at, and the timeline for Dickinson to make the Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays on the Locked On NHL Network. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And today we're doing the Sam Dickinson deep dive as we kind of start to get to know these new prospects a little bit better. So what I've done is I've watched a few games of Dickinson from his playoff run here, as London made a very long and deep playoff run. So looked at his games, kind of my observations, kind of comparing that also to what the scouts said, and then also give my timeline for Sam Dickinson, as I know that is a big question around Dickinson. And when do we get to see our shiny new 6'3" left-handed defenseman toys? So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your company? Don't search, get matched with Indeed. Starting now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job. Post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So, Sam Dickinson. And I'm going to say this in the most loving possible sense. Sam Dickinson is a boring player. And this is not a bad thing. Okay. Sam Dickinson is like, you see why my career had to be exciting when he picked, when Dickinson was available to be there at number 11. You know, he is a very good defenseman who has a lot of translatable NHL skills. I think there's still some untapped areas in his offensive game, and we'll get to that here in kind of the middle section. But right now, we're going to kind of focus on the positives and what makes Dickinson so intriguing and why he is going to be an NHL player. And I think the first and foremost is, one, he's a great skater, especially for his size, right? 6'3", 200 pounds. And he just turned 18 on June 7th. So this is a player who's very, very young in this draft cycle, right? And we'll talk about that when we get to the timeline. But great skater. His mobility, his ability to kind of match forwards and match kind of pressure. And not only that, but also his physicality. He is a very good, physical player, and he knows how to use his body already at this age, right? How many players, I know completely different players, but like Brandon Coe, right? 6'4", 200-pound, forward, or 190-pound forward. But right, you watching Brandon Coe, especially on the Barracuda, how often do you wish Coe would kind of get to the middle of the ice a little bit more, use that size, use that physicality? You don't have to worry about that with Dickinson. Like, he is very good at using his size and to his advantage. So couple plays, and I wrote about this on the Reef. It is behind paywall because I spent a lot of time watching video, getting clips. But if you are, you can kind of check out some of the videos that I kind of, for examples. I'm not allowed to put them here on Locked On. One, for the audio listeners, it wouldn't make much sense. And two, YouTube things like we at Locked On, we don't want to put actual game tape on our YouTube channel. So that's why it's not here. I do have it available elsewhere, but for Dickinson, his ability to use his size and his strength and use it smart. Like, he's not just out there just kind of crushing dudes just to crush dudes. He's really, really great, especially kind of along the boards, just kind of taking guys out of the play where it's very subtle, and then all of a sudden he kind of matches their size and he matches their speed, and then all of a sudden just kind of stops them in their progress along the boards, where not interference, right? But he does a good job of just kind of taking these guys out of the play and making it easy for his defensive partner. And I think that is another kind of big skill of his. He is a great partner for somebody, and especially if you're an offensively oriented defenseman. Sam Dickinson is like the perfect partner because he is very happy to kind of be the more conservative, hold back type of defenseman, where, you know what, you go do your thing. I'm going to make sure I got it locked down here on the blue line, type of player. And I think that is one of his great strengths, is kind of being able to play with an offensively oriented player, especially in his partner is Oliver Bonk, who was the first round pick of the Flyers in the 2023 draft. We'll talk about Bonk here a little bit more, but I think though those two things right there, his skating, or those couple things, his skating, his ability to use his body and his size effectively already. And those are just, as he gets older and gets stronger and kind of learns the tricks of the trade, he's going to be even more effective at that. So I think his foundation for that, like he's not having to have to learn how to use his size and to his advantage. He already has that down, and he'll just start to kind of get those veteran tricks and like that positioning of like, okay, I know where, if I'm here type of thing, I can kind of maybe get away with doing this to my advantage. So that every player does, right? Is kind of it's learning what I can do and what I can get away with. He's already at such a high floor with that it's going to be easily translatable to the NHL, especially when he starts to play guys who are, you know, closer to his size. He's still doing things that are going to be very effective in the NHL as well. Another huge strength for Dickinson is his transition ability. This is both offense and defense. And one of the things we'll need to see from him, we'll start with the defense side, actually. Sorry, first. So defensively, he's very good at his kind of positioning, getting, and has a really good sense of when to jump in and kind of be aggressive and shut down the play, or when to kind of push guys towards the boards where he can kind of take them out, kind of eliminate them against the boards and slow down the play there. Really great sense of that, of like, okay, when do I poke check? When do I kind of step into guys? When do I push guys to the outside? Again, like very good, especially for such a young age at that. And I know he's playing right now against 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, but those are translatable skills. Of you're not going to see Dickinson kind of, I don't expect to see him get pylon or, you know, kind of too often, where it's going to happen, especially as a young kid in the NHL. But that's not going to be something where he's just like, he's going to get kind of just left out to dry there, because I think he has a really good sense of how to attack on the transition, especially defensively, how to defend it, where to have a sick place, when in that timing of when do I kind of step into it, or when do I push guys the outside, and when do I utilize my teammates. So I think that, and with the way the NHL is going, where it's so rush based, so transition based, I think he's going to excel in that area, and you already see it. You see the pro habits watching him in the OHL. So, and then offensively, the transition, he does a good job of kind of the same thing. Reading when I should jump in, reading when I should kind of let somebody else and I'll hang back. And when he does get in there, like, he has a really good shot, and that's something that we'll talk about where he needs to improve here, is his offensive skills in a second. But when Sam Dickinson is at his best, he is decisive and he knows exactly what he wants to do with the puck before he gets the puck, and it works, right? He has a very Brent Burns-esque ability to play the puck right off the boards, like straight off the boards for a shot, right? How often would you see the puck rimming around with Brent Burns, and then all of a sudden the puck is flying towards the net? I'm not saying Sam Dickinson is that level, but he has a Burns-esque level of being able to kind of read the puck and get it going back to the net without having to delay much there. So there's plenty of great things about Sam Dickinson. Again, you see why he is going to to be an NHL player because of just where the foundation is with his size, his skill, his skating ability, and his ability to play rush defense. Those are all huge aspects in today's NHL, and he already has such a high floor with those. And as he continues to get better and to progress, you see why at the worst he's going to be like a second line defenseman who just plays a ton of minutes and maybe leaves you wanting a little bit more offensively, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But I think though for Dickinson, like the floor is so high with him, and if he taps into everything else, you see why he has all the makings to be a top tier defenseman, just because of everything is there for him. Right? It's not questions on, well, if he's a little bit bigger or if he could do this a little. It's you've seen flashes of it. It's just, can he put it all together? So we'll dive into kind of what he needs to work on. I think his biggest question, which is his decision making, and what he needs to kind of work on there. And then we'll talk about the timeline here in just a little bit. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your hiring and matching platform with 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of the show, you can get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. What does he need to work on? Right. And every player like this, I'm not trying to tear down Dickinson. Like, every player has things they need to work on. Right. And reading his scouting reports, right, you heard a lot about, the hockey IQ. And like, I know that can be a little bit like very generic. And what does he need to, to me, it's the decision making, especially when pressured, right? And several times in the games that I watch where it almost felt like when you're watching football and the quarterback is kind of facing a blitz and just kind of doesn't do anything. That's where you kind of see Dickinson like at his worst, right? Puck on the stick, forward checking on him, especially if he's in the defensive zone, forward checking on him. And Dickinson just hesitates and doesn't do anything with a puck either. So either in that, you need to find an outlet, right? You need to either skate or just eat the puck and try to maintain possession. And he just kind of doesn't do anything. And that is where Sam Dickinson needs to get better at. It's just what happens when I'm pressured with the puck, and especially that decision-making process. And this is why he's not NHL ready right now, is because if you're seeing this in the OHL against 17, 18-year-old, what happens when you get to the NHL and the games get faster, right? And the players are bigger and stronger, faster, and things happen just so much quicker. That processing needs to speed up for Dickinson. And the best way to do it is just reps. I think he is I think it comes down to that. It's just doing it more. And whether it's film study, kind of looking at, okay, like, I'm here, this is happening, what's going on around me? And maybe that's part of the scanning and kind of seeing what else is available. But for Dickinson, if that is, I think, the biggest, is the kind of the decision-making, especially when pressured. And you would see it about once a game from Dickinson, where he would just kind of make a play, kind of make like a hope pass or make a play. And you're like, buddy, what are you doing here? I was watching versus Kitchener. I think it was the second round. fourth game, like they're going for it's the fourth game of the series. They're going for the sweep. They just get off a penalty kill. Like he's playing kind of the second pairing minutes on the penalty kill. Just gets off a penalty kill. The rest of the team, and he is kind of the furthest away from the bench, right? He's the last guy who's going to change because the bench where he's at, where the bench is the furthest possible way, right? Everybody else is changing. He's already been out there for good, 45 seconds to a minute on the shift. He gets the puck in his own zone, and there is nobody else within a mile of him. Like it's one of those. Okay, you like freeze frame it. You're like, what do you do with the puck here? Do you're a great skater? Do you carry it into the neutral zone, and you can either dump it in, you can find a teammate, you can carry it, keep pushing play in the offensive zone. Do you do that, or do you throw the puck at the boards to your teammates who are changing in a hope play? And that's probably going to bounce around and then all of a sudden turn back into become a turnover. And he just chucks it. It's a chuck it. He just chucks the puck and just hopes that somebody does something with it. And they don't, right? And then they have to spend another minute and a half defending because of this. And it's plays like that where it's like you're an excellent skater. Maybe you're tired, right? It's kind of a little bit late in your shift. But now you have to, and your team has to defend another minute and a half because of the decision you made right here. So is the decision making, and these are just going to come down to reps. Like it's just playing more and playing more. And I think the film study of it, of okay, what should I do here? Should I carry the puck forward, or should I, kind of chuck the puck, or even just take it behind your net and let everyone else change? Like if you wanted, like there's just a million other options to do there, and he kind of made the wrong one. And you can see a lot of the time, especially London, it was a very aggressive team, right? They're very much like a push. If you get the puck, push. That's kind of part of their system, is get the puck and push, because we have very talented forwards, right? You look at their forward crop. A lot of these guys are, very high NHL picks. Of course, Casper Holton, you have East Cowan, and like there's a bunch of really intriguing players, and they're a very good team, right? So it's very much like just get the puck into the forwards' hands and let them kind of do their thing. But you're gonna have to those are not NHL habits. So that's where I think that kind of decision making of like, let me slow things down here. My team just got off a penalty kill. Let's slow things down and kind of get going and reset things here, right? Try to turn the momentum around. You can see a lot of times with hope plays where, like he has the puck at his own blue line. They're trying to kind of start the transition. And instead of making maybe a pass to his partner who can kind of push it forward, he tries to make a cross ice pass, which just gets intercepted or gets knocked down. And then all of a sudden they're defending again. So rather see those things in the OHL, right? Where you're learning as our good friend Hattie says, right? You're experimenting with what you can and can't do. Rather see those things happen there in the OHL, and then learning from those and be like, I can't get away with that. Let me make the simple play, keep the puck possession, keep the puck moving in our direction as we either have momentum or we're trying to recapture momentum. Those are, I think, the things that he needs to work out. So, and another thing, is the offensive game, right? Especially because Oliver Bonk is his partner, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about the timeline. But would like to see him kind of be given a chance to be the guy who kind of drives offense. And that's just, again, with London, you have Oliver Bonk, who's very good offensively. Is well on his way to being a really, really nice two-way defenseman. Again, with that dynamic where Bonk kind of takes the lead in the offensive stuff, and Dickinson is more of the stay-at-home defenseman. Would like to see what happens if those guys get split up, and we'll talk about that more with the timeline here. But I think there's another gear to go in his offensive game, especially creating. He does a really nice job again. He has a really nice shot, I think kind of an underrated shot that he can get off super quick. I would like to see him be a little bit more of a creator in the offensive zone. And I think that'll come with that pressure that we talked about a little bit earlier of just being a little bit more confident when you have the puck and kind of making those decisions and kind of making them quickly. So we'll talk about here in a second with the timeline of kind of what we want to see from Dickinson over the next couple of seasons, when we potential to see him in the NHL, and I think maybe the best route for him. So we'll discuss that here in just 1 second. All right. Thank you guys, of course, for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. When you're done checking out Locked On Sharks, make sure you guys go check out one of the other great Locked On shows. Of course, you want to get geared up with Locked On 49ers as training camp is right around the corner. You have Locked On Giants, who are putting out content every day on this Giants team, as you know, a very interesting team making the right before the trade deadline if they're going to kind of push for the playoffs. If you want to go check out Locked On Warriors, while the summer, you have summer games are going on in Vegas right now. Like plenty of good stuff here at Locked On. So make sure you guys when you're done listening to Locked On Sharks, go check out one of the other Locked On shows, specifically one of the Locked On Bay Area shows, because hashtag Bay Area Unite. So Sam Dickinson, though, in his timeline. So I know there's a percentage of Sharks fans who are like, well, could Dickinson play this year? And I would say physically he could survive this year, right? Especially when you're 6'3", 200 pounds, and you skate the way he does. Like he has an NHL body already. He'll just continue to get stronger. That old man strength, etc. But physically, he could survive in the NHL. But I don't think playing in the NHL is the best thing for him this year because of some of that decision making, as we kind of touched on earlier. And as the NHL game, right, it is the fastest game in the world. It is like everything just happens so quickly. I just don't think his processing is quite there yet, right? And I'm not trying to tear down Sam Dickinson. I'm trying to be realistic. I want Sam Dickinson to be great, right? You're a Sharks fan. I'm a Sharks fan. We all want Sam Dickinson to be great. I think throwing him out there right now, especially what's going to be behind a super young forward group, and if you're the defense and your job is to kind of be the last man standing before the goalie, and we expect as great as Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini and all these other young players to be, they're going to make rookie mistakes. And having a rookie defenseman behind a rookie forward as they're all going through their rookie mistakes is just going to, I think, compound situations. So Dickinson, he's going to be back in London this year. And that's the best thing for him because, again, right, we want him to work on these decision-making, the processing, getting that stuff down in the OH level before you kind of make the jump. So the best kind of scenario, I think, to be honest, for Dickinson is if Oliver Bonk makes the NHL. And Bonk is, unfortunately, he is in these kind of he either needs to be in the NHL or the OHL because he's 19. He doesn't turn 20 until beginning of January. And just a quick reminder for the CHL NHL agreement, you either have to be 20 to play 20 by the end of the year, like Luca Cagnoni, right? Cagnoni's 19. He'll be 20 in December. So that's why he's eligible to play in the AHL. For Bonk, he is 19 and he'll be 19 and he turns 20 beginning of January. They could potentially go the Shane Wright route of, hey, can we get an exception? His birthday is this close. That's why Shane Wright was able to, because his birthday was very close to the cutoff. But anyway, so Bonk, if Bonk makes the Flyers, that would be the best scenario for Dickinson because he becomes the de facto number one defenseman who will get a ton of power play opportunities, get to be the quarterback on the power play, and kind of hopefully be able to take a step offensively where he can do more puck handling and then having to make that decision making with handling the puck, right? That is his biggest thing that he needs to work on right now is when I have the puck and I have to make a quick decision, what do I do with it? And getting more reps doing that, especially if you're on the power play, I think is a great way for him to kind of work on those areas. There is also, if Dickinson does come back, right, John Tortorella and young players, we know what happens there. Dickinson comes back. there is a pathway for Dickinson Bonk comes back. There's an easy pathway for Dickinson to, get that power play one time, because the way London uses Oliver Bonk, it's not traditional. Like, he plays the bumper role for them, which is, if you've seen the bumper Bonk stuff, he plays the bumper. Like, he's right in the middle, like right net front presence, which is really weird for a defenseman. So that maybe they're let Dickinson kind of run quarterback the unit while Bonk plays his bumper Bonk position. That's a potential option there. But if Bonk's back, they're probably going to do the same thing of keeping them together. Or maybe the hope is that you would split them up to try to have two like good defensive pairings, and let Dickinson kind of be the offensive guy on that pairing that he's on. So, but Dickinson's going to be back. And if he can work on that decision making, really kind of improve that and cut down on the turnovers where he's just kind of chucking it to the other team or just kind of handing it off to the team, and really cut that down, then there's a realistic path for him to play in the NHL next year. And it could be very much like the Kevin Krasinski thing, where with the Chicago Blackhawks, where Krasinski, could have gone back to the WHL this year, didn't, because right, it's NHL or CHL or bust, right? And with Dickinson, right, since his birthday's in June, he's gonna have 2 years of this, like, has to be in the NHL or has to be in the OHL. Like, he can't play in the AHL for 2 seasons, just like Quentin Musty. So with Dickinson, are you going to, I think if he has a really good season this year, comes into training camp next year and is kind of a man possessed, I think that's the pathway for him to play in the NHL in 25-26 season. And I know that there'll be more spots open, right? Like Jan Ruda will be gone. We'll kind of see this team's going to continue to change and evolve over the next couple seasons. And maybe Shakira Mukhamadullin will have his first season under his belt. Right, you're hoping that maybe Dickinson can kind of slide in there in the 25-26 season, or the Sharks are going to have to kind of make a decision where maybe he's not quite ready, but you keep him up anyway because it's better for him to maybe kind of get his butt kicked for a season like Kevin Krasinski did than send him back into the OHL where he's just going to be a man among boys, right? By then, 20-year-old or 19 to 20-year-old Sam Dickinson is just going to, just destroy children in the OHL, and he's not going to really develop much, right? Because he's just going to be too good. So I think that would my guess for the plan would be play this year. These are the area focus. These are areas you really, really need to focus on. If you can iron out these, you've got a realistic chance to be an NHLer as a 19-year-old in the 25-26 season, right? Because you're going to have hopefully a little bit more improved roster. Your young forwards are going to have at least a full season under their belt, and Will Smith and Mackin Celebrini. You're going to, I think, be able to accommodate a young defenseman a little bit more on the rosters. So that would be my plan. Worst case scenario is he's not able to, and then he has to go back and play another season in the OHL. And then from there, it's you can kind of do what you want, whether it's AHL time or NHL time in the following season, which would be the 26-27 season, which doesn't feel like real years, but they are real years, and that's kind of where you would be at. So yeah, it'll be really intriguing to see kind of how Mike Greer, Ryan Warsofsky, and the Sharks play Sam Dickinson's development, just because, again, that age thing, right? It's nice with him being young because you has a longer runway when it comes to his development, right? He's almost 9 months younger than some of his draft parts. So he has more development to go, but it kind of restricts you in what you can do with where he can play, right? It's kind of the trade-off there of, like Luca Cagnoni, since he's one of the older guys in his class, like he can play in the AHL this year, which I think is better for his development if he makes the AHL than going back and kind of dominating the WHL again. So we'll see though. But if I was a betting man, I would say we see Sam Dickinson in the NHL next year, just because I think the areas that he needs to work on, I think there's a realistic kind of path for him to fix those. And I think it just comes with more reps and more reps and more reps, and hopefully London can put him in a position to work on those reps this year. So, and expect London to play a bajillion games this year and to go deep in the playoffs again. So I think that's Dickinson's going to be a huge part of what this London team does. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow where we're going to kind of look at other first overall picks who made the jump straight to the NHL, how their seasons went, and what we can kind of expect with Macco and Celebrini. So make sure you follow wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can also watch on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.